Hey cats, it's Ed MidsoleBud here. I get loads and loads of requests on the channel from people that want to know what's the best shoe for standing around in. Perhaps they're doing a job, they've got some sort of employment where they're on their feet for large amounts of the day. So, here's my best running shoes for not running in. Welcome back to the channel, guys. Thanks for tuning in, it's always appreciated. If you're yet to do so, hit that subscribe button and also click the bell below for notifications when I launch those new videos for you. And you can also help the channel out a huge amount if you give this video a thumbs up like, but also share it with your running buddies. Danke schön. Some jobs require people to be on their feet for hours and hours. Medical staff perhaps, nurses, retail workers amongst others. I get loads of requests asking what are the best cushion shoes out there on the market, what are the most forgiving shoes for the feet. Obviously people want something that's going to be stable enough though that isn't going to put loads of pressure on their ankles. What are the most usable running shoes for standing around in? It's kind of weird, I've got to be honest, but let's get to it. First shoe up has got to be the Nike ZOOMX Invincible Run Flyknit. The massive Pegasus foam in the midsole unit of this shoe almost speaks the words forgiving and comfort. The upper's plush with loads of padding in the tongue area and around the heel collar, and the midsole unit will undoubtedly provide a very foot-friendly pillow for the tired and weary workers out there. I would suggest going true to size, but though I would note the lack of visual aesthetic appeal in the shoe, it does look a little bit like something that Sideshow Bob would wear. There's a kind of orthopedic vibe about it, though I would suggest that some of the newer colourways of this one are actually a little bit more appealing. Oversized ankle collar area and the very weird looking midsole. It's probably going to put a few people off, and it's not exactly a shoe that I'd think people want to rock around the pub, but certainly if you're standing around for hours on end, I think the Invincible Run from Nike is a good bet. Not sure it's my favourite shoe for running, but certainly for the sort of casual standing around in, fantastic. Next up, it's the Gel Nimbus 24 from Asics. A real tour de force of foam and technology here in Asics' flagship shoe. Flight Foam Blast Plus. Very squashy. But you do have gel incorporated into the midsole foam too in certain areas to provide a little bit more stability. It's just a more controlled midsole feel here than in the Invincible Run. A little bit more consistent, I suppose, where it's just a stupendous squash in the Nike shoe. I think the profile's a little bit more running shoe-like, and perhaps you won't get quite so many strange looks if you're just rocking this one, perhaps at your workplace. I guess some of these shoes would be quite good for queuing as well. We do a lot of queuing in Great Britain. There's lots of lines you have to join and wait for things, all sorts of stuff. You could be buying a tub of ice cream at the cinema or trying to get your passport sorted out, but you've got to queue. There's an almost stretchy sort of mesh here, certainly up through the tongue area. Very, very comfortable shoe on foot. Found the outsole really durable on the Asics shoe. I think it's going to last you many miles of standing around. And it's a touch lighter than the Nike shoe that we just looked at as well. Certainly in hand and on foot. I don't think you want something that's really heavy, you know, if you're going to be wearing it all day. This one's a little cheaper as well in terms of wallet damage, comes in at around about 155 Earth credits. Now it might seem a lot, I suppose, but if you're going to be wearing it almost every day, then you'll soon get your money's worth. Very little wallet damage here, so I guess this makes it a very worthy inclusion in my running shoes for not running list. It's certainly not a bottomless pit of squash here in the Gel Nimbus 24, but some nice compression there for daily duties. Next shoe up, of copious comfort for those tired toes, is the Nike Pegasus Trail 3. The React here in the midsole is certainly on the softer scale of Nike's foam range. I think it presents a very capable shoe for today's list. Running shoes always offer something else in terms of cushion and lightness, though the Trail 3 is a little bit heavier than the past two shoes I've just shown you. Well, I wouldn't suggest it's really one you can consider being heavy. In fact, most running shoes are pretty light when you think about it. Compare them to like a dress shoe or like a Wellington boot, or maybe even just a lifestyle model. Most of them are pretty light these days. The upper is extremely comfortable, though maybe one for those in cooler climates, or if you're working in an environment where the temperature is somewhat lower. The tongue on the Pegasus Trail 3 is nice and padded. There's no chance of any sort of pressure on the top of your foot. Great traction in the outsole, and it's also very available, and there's loads of different colorways as well. Can be a bit of a problem with some models these days. They're really hard to track down in certain colorways, but Nike seem to be smashing out loads of pairs of the Pegasus Trail 3. I think it's been one of their more successful shoes over the last couple of years. Absolutely worth a place in my list today. An absolutely superb running shoe at position 4, or at least it was a running shoe when it was released, the Nike Air Max 3. This one was released back in 1990, though I've got a retro version here, a classic shoe that never fails to provide that cushy comfort underfoot. I just love the super plush upper as well, so many nice materials here. Everything about the upper is just so soft and succulent, from the toe box to the tongue to the heel collar. It's all just very gentle and forgiving, like a local village priest. I mean, you got to be honest, the midsole on this is a little bit different to what we get nowadays. We've got a heel and forefoot air unit built into this Air Max 3 Retro. I guess the big difference here, it's a polyurethane midsole foam. These days we're used to like EVA, P-backs and all that kind of jazz. But combined with those aforementioned air units, it is heavenly. A cloud of comfort, and it's my go-to shoe for recovery after very hard training sessions. If you've done a race or some type of really tough effort, you put these on and it just feels magic. You know, those sessions that really punish the feet and the legs. I think the Air Max 3 is the unappreciated saviour of cushion. I know we've got sort of like fake suede type materials here, but everything's just so plush and inviting. Stay true to size. If you can find them, maybe you can hire the Air Max 3. I have to say my son is absolutely obsessed with these air units. I like shining the torch through the back of them and he just stands there in awe. Before I get to the last shoe, let me know what your best running shoes for not running are. So recovery, standing around perhaps at your job, maybe even just for casual use while you're watching Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, for example. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Just a couple of shoes I didn't include in this list and why. Now, the Alpha Fly, some people might suggest, is like one of the most cushioned shoes. I don't really think it's a great shoe to be wearing all day. If you're on your feet all day, your legs are going to be exhausted by them wearing the Alpha Fly. I don't think it's really the most stable of running shoes, especially for being stationary. The Prime X as well, I think that's just going to exhaust your ankles. It's going to put a lot more strain on them just because the shoe's so high. Can you imagine wearing some platform shoes all day? It's a little bit like the Prime X. It's not to say I don't think it's a fantastic running shoe, I just don't think it's a great one for today's list. That Puma Nitro foam is amongst the most compressive and forgiving that I've tested out over the last year. It's also extremely light too. I think Puma have nailed the distribution of that foam along with EVA in the Velocity Nitro 2. You've got that layer of EVA and then on top the Nitro foam. This presents a very affordable and available shoe from Puma, and I think it's ideal for today's list. Kind of looks awesome as a day-to-day casual shoe as well. Maybe not in this colourway, you'll certainly stand out, but perhaps in the black and white variant, probably a little better. The laces are almost Nike SB-like as well in their stretchiness and thickness. Perhaps not the most plush or subtle shoe out there, but I think it rocks for the purpose of standing still on your feet all day. Come to think of it, a while back I did a gig where I was stood up for about 2.5 hours and I used a pair of the Liberate Nitros and my legs were fantastic. In fact, the next day I went and ran the Bristol Half Marathon and got the best time I've ever done. So that just about says it all for you. Using Nitro foam if you're standing up the day before a race, get about 5 hours sleep and you'll be in tip-top condition. I think the Puma Liberate Nitro is a very worthy addition to my list today. What do you make of this strange video? I hope you enjoyed it. Hope it's given you a few options, perhaps if you're looking to purchase a new piece of footwear to help ease the strain on your legs. These are certainly some of the most comfortable running shoes I've got in my collection right now. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on my selections down in the comments. A quick musical interlude for you. I've been really enjoying the new album from Spiritualized. It's entitled Everything Was Beautiful, and many of the tracks are just that. I really like Always Together With You and the sweet country track Crazy. Some really wonderful layers here of different noises and sounds. Almost like you're strapped into a rocket and blasting off out of the stratosphere. There's some subtlety here in the music, there's some love, there's some tender care and attention that's been put into some of the tracks, which is lacking from a lot of popular music these days. I think this one's like a bit of a warm hug. It's got some character to it and some subtlety. The track Crazy really is a beautiful thing. One of my favourites on the album and that Spiritualized have ever done. I think it probably equals a B-side that I really enjoyed that they did called Rock and Roll, Keep Playing For Me. That was a lovely track. It reminds me a little bit of that. They round the album off with this slightly bitter-sweet track called I'm Coming Home Again. It's kind of interesting. It's like they've taken the journey and listen to all the tracks and then you're sort of coming back down to earth. A really interesting listen, go and check it out guys. New from Spiritualized, it's called Everything Was Beautiful. Thanks for tuning in, it's always appreciated. Hit that subscribe button and the bell below for notifications. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, like and share it with your running buddies. My name's EDDBUD and I'll be seeing you